here, Flip Anything USA. Anyways, I was kind of going through the internet here, just perusing different things, seeing a lot of predictions from a lot of fake gurus, guys that, young guys that have no real experience, and even older guys that have no experience. They're just good salesmen and conmen in general. And, I thought it's a worthwhile topic, and I can tell you I've been investing for 43 years. And historical data, it's a point of reference, but it's, too many guys get carried away with it. Like I like Mike Zuber. Zuber, I think, is a nice guy and a decent guy and a real investor. But again, he gets caught up in the data. He loves looking at data, loves making predictions. He's wrong a lot. And most people are that kind of rely on historical data. And I want to talk about why, and in my experience, why you can't count on historical data. So like I said, I've been investing for 43 years. So I was involved in real estate in 1981. That's when I started buying property, right? And what I've come to learn, let me tell you about my first 10 years in real estate, or just say 7, 8 years. I made my first million in about 7 years, right? I think it was about 1988. Oh, also, somebody let me know that the audio's good. It looks like it is. I'm not even going to worry about it. Anyways, so I started out. I dropped out of high school when I was 17. I went to work for a cabinet maker. I had a couple little jobs before then. Then I went to work for a cabinet maker. And, the economy was shit then. It was coming down from like 15% interest rates. And I didn't know what high interest rates. I really didn't pay attention to them. Back then. Oh, thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. Hey, Eric, is that you from in the class, by the way? Yeah, Eric, is that you? Anyways, I got a lot of great students in the class. Actually, anybody in my class should, feel free to call in and we can talk about some of this stuff. But I'll just ramble on here, kind of going back to my old poolside chats. I was hoping that Garrett, I hope you might be listening in. It's too late to text you, I think. So look, I'm a young guy, 17 years old, went to work. A year and a half later, my boss went belly up, lost his business. And so I went to work. Oh, yeah, okay, Eric. Well, good. I'm welcome anyways. You can still call in. It don't matter. But the call-in number's down below here, but we can wait just a little bit here. If you get in the queue, I'll hold you your place. But so I was, and I'm talking because, listen, I deal with so many young men, and young to me relative to my age is 40 years old now, right? It can be 19, 20, whatever, 30, 40, 50 is young to me now. But here's what you can't factor in, that really it just takes decades of experience in seeing things happen to formulate opinions that really matter to a large degree. So let's talk about why you can't count on historical data. And I was going through this, you can speculate and you can do certain things, and I think that you can reason and come up with good reasons for things to do certain things, and then that is a prediction, right? But let me just tell you, back in 1981, the interest rates were coming down from like 15% on real estate. So this is me looking back in hindsight, right? Now, in 1981, I fell into a deal. I say I fell into it. I was looking for a place to rent, and I ended up making a deal to buy it. And how did I buy it? Well, what do you think I cared about? I didn't care about how much I was paying. I cared about how much a month. And that's how most people buy today. And that's a mistake, by the way. But how much, I was looking at paying rent of probably $600 a month back then, because I was already renting a place, but I had to find another place. You guys, some of you already know the story. So one of the places I came and looked at, turns out it was for sale. Also turns out to be the place that I used to work at. My boss had lost it. He'd gone belly up. He's probably 35 years old when he lost the building. that I ultimately bought. And when I bought it, I got it, 6 month. I got a 6 month escrow. I put $500 deposit down, and in 6 months I had to have 10 grand. But I had access to the property, allowed me to move in, allowed me to, have no rent to pay at all. I was payment free for those 6 months. And so again, it was just simple math, right? I go, okay, I got 6 months. I can stay here for free. I'll save the money. I'll get in. Well, let me tell you what was going on back then. Let me this is why you can't rely on historical data. Okay, back then, believe me, you would think that Democrats were right wingers. Okay, they wanted border security. They were totally against immigrants coming over illegally. I mean, they were hardline, and and kind of everybody was on board. Okay, so look how things have changed, right? So it doesn't matter if you have the exact same scenario today as you have then economically, and we do a little bit. I mean, the interest rates aren't near as high today as they were back then, but the government, Reagan said it best. He goes, "There's nothing more frightening than somebody from the government coming to your door," and I'm paraphrasing. There's nothing more frightening than somebody coming to your door from the government saying, "I'm here to help." Okay, it's the worst thing in the world, right? And give you an example. Like, who would have thought that here we are 40 years later, 43 years later since I've been investing, and now you've got, the most important thing in the world is global warming. That's the cause of terrorism, depending on who you listen to, on the left. And then also, we've got 16.8 million illegal immigrants that have come in the last 4 years. Okay, that would have never happened back then. And we got to pay for them, right? We got to take care of them. And we are taking care of them. I don't say we have to, but we are taking care of them. Now it's going to change, of course, with the new administration. But again, it doesn't matter if the economics were the same, if the interest rate's the same, and everything else is the same. We have government intervention, no matter how bad it is. It was the government that brought all these people in. Believe me, it was the administration that was the last 4 years that opened the floodgates. So all of a sudden we got all these people to take care of. And this is one of the things you have to factor in right now is the reason, and think about how this is going to affect. When you bring 16 million new people into your country, which is basically 5% roughly of our population, right? 5%, yeah, I think we're about 350 million. So it's right at about 5%, all of a sudden, boom, come in. We're already having a little bit of a housing shortage. Well, now the housing shortage is even greater. People need a place to live. Well, what do? Eventually, these people that are here, collectively or otherwise, whether they get government handouts or whatever, they start paying rent. Well, when they start paying rent, now they're competing against native born, right? People that are here legally, that are looking to rent places. It's pushing the rents up. In other words, because they're competing for a place to live. So now you've got the rents getting pushed up. Okay. Now the interest rate change, right? It's not so bad. The interest rate doesn't bother me. What it is right now. What's torture is that the interest pretty much doubled inside of 3 years, right? It doubled very, very quickly, far quicker than it ever has in the past. Maybe except going back into like 79 or something like that. But so it's that sudden change that now people are locked in. In other words, if you got a $400,000 home and whatever, you got a $250,000 mortgage, whatever, 3 or 2.9 or 3.5%. Well, whoever you sell it to is going to have to pay 7. Okay. Well, they're going to go back to not how much a month. Well, how much a month is a hell of a lot more. In fact, it's pretty much double, right? Because now, whatever, what you could have bought for $600,000, it now costs you per month the same as if you're paying 400,000 or even 300,000, really almost doubled. And so all of a sudden you've got this huge variable that you can't really reflect on historically because we never had an interest rate change quite so rapidly. And have an influx of so many illegal immigrants that need a place to live, that's driving the rents up. So again, the bottom line is, what the problem with historical data is you can't predict bad government interference, and the government, almost always f's things up. They, I think don't misunderstand me. I think we're in good hands right now, as good as we can get. But look at, we've already got, I don't know if you guys have heard, you've got the current president has lobbied for, selling off whatever, walls or parts of the wall, 5 cents on the dollar. Imagine spending, $100 million on fence and then not having it put in, and then immediately, before the next one comes in to take over, the fence that's going up again, the wall that's going up, is now being sold for 5 cents on the dollar. It's, the steel's being sold for scrap, basically. This kind of sabotage, it sabotages everyone in the country. And so, these things are why you can't count on historical data. Number one, it's just that simple. It's because the government is the one that kind of picks the winners, picks the losers. They intervene. You got to understand so now look, we got Doge, right? Not the coin. Department of Government Efficiency, right? Now that's new. That's a positive thing, I think. But what does the government do when they see Doge coming? The current administration, all of a sudden, 92% of the people that are allowed to work at home that used to work in buildings, right? Now suddenly they're it's already been pre-announced by Musk and Ramaswamy that they're going to make people come back to work. Oh, thanks, buddy. It's probably me not speaking up. Is that better? I'll speak up a little bit better here. Yeah, I got the mic a little bit far away. So, but like I say, you've got. So what does the government do? The current administration, I won't even say the government. All of a sudden, they're saying, we're going to sign a 5-year deal where everybody can stay at home and work from home. And they start locking up things and put roadblocks in so that the new administration can't do what they'd like to do. And in all honesty, it's kind of, it's a shame they didn't put a cap on it and didn't just surprise them. So look, anybody want to call in, please call in. Hey, Volvo 89, how's the volume now? Is that better? Let me know. Anyways, look, it's late night. I just thought I'd throw it on and chat a little bit. Hopefully somebody wants to chime in and talk. But, let's talk about real estate. I actually lost a deal today. I'm a little bit upset by it. And this is also, I want to talk about too, is, sometimes you can spread yourself too thin, right? The other thing, jack of all trades, master of none, right? And I've had a lot on my plate here lately, not just with investments. That's the number one thing that keeps me busy is real estate. I got 200,000 square feet of rentals, and so there's things that I do, there's things that I expand. I'm always looking to add more to my portfolio. At the same time, here I'm mentoring a lot of people now, and which if you just got here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'm the worst. I'm probably one of the worst podcasters you'll see, but I guarantee I'm one of the best investors you're going to find on YouTube. Anyways, and by the way, whenever you see those pictures changing above my head, those are properties that I personally purchased myself, many that I still own. And anyhow, that's what that's about. I have mentorship. You can check that out at flipanythingusa.com. But, with the real estate the way it is today, there's just so many things out there. Look at here, oh, social media, right? Social media. There's a huge one. You are being fed. They kind of get a taste of what you like and what you don't like. They kind of figure out who you are, and I'm talking about basically the algorithm. And so you start getting fed stuff that you want to believe. You know what I mean? In other words, everybody's got a different reality. Oh, good. We got somebody calling in here. Let's see. I hope this is Russ. We'll see. Hello, caller. Is this Russ? Oh, hey, how you doing, Russ? Oh, yeah, what, yeah, I appreciate that. I think everybody can hear you. Oh, yeah, that one is, I'll tell you more in detail. It's more of a class project, but basically just running too thin, right? Just running a little bit too thin, trying to do too much at once. It's funny if you, and you're kind of starting to fall into those shoes yourself, Russ. Russ is one of my students, by the way, and he's super brilliant and doing very well. But you can only be in one place at a time. And there's things that spread you thin. I got 4 kids. They're grown, but I'm a little bit preoccupied with doing certain things. I got a daughter getting married. I'm a new grandpa. I'm trying to take time for that. But yeah, no, I lost a deal that I should have had. I should have stayed a little closer. And it's that big building I showed you. I'm not going to talk about it on the radio or on here right now, but the big one that was almost 50,000 square feet. That got away from me, and it's not the end of the world. Believe me, I tell everybody, don't worry. I've been helping students today actually through their deals, and what I can tell you is there's always another deal. This one here, like I say, I'm just a little bit bothered. I could be upset with the agent to a little, but it's my fault. It's always your fault. Listen, everybody out there, it's always your fault. You have to be the one. You got to be the one that drives it. You got to be the one that stays on top. And you can blame somebody for not remembering you or thinking about you, or you said you were going to do that. You know what? You have to mind. You have to mind the people that you. And when I say mind, you have to manage the situation. You know what I'm talking about, Russ? Do you know what I mean? Russ, are you still there? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This was a really good deal. No, I don't even worry about it. I don't even worry about it. But, believe me, this is and I've lost bigger deals. And I've made much bigger deals than this one too that I lost. I just, listen, here's what I'll tell you, everybody that's watching. No, but I always, I am very, very hard on myself. And we can argue about that with anybody, in other words, if you're easy on yourself, then you can just get through life and never get anywhere. But if you're hard on yourself, you'll go a lot further, I think. But go ahead, Russ, sorry. Yep. Right. Yeah, that can be a part of that can be very disappointing when you're counting on something to close in order to buy something else. Yeah. But also there can be blessings in missing on some deals too. You know what I mean? In hindsight, you go, oh, you know what? It's a good thing. Maybe things will crash and get much worse. Hey, those, I don't know. Anyways, but So what are you going to do? Are you going to lower the price? Are you going to take it down? Nice. Oh, you're going to 1031 which property? Which property? Oh, the one that you had a little bit of bad luck with? Okay. Yeah, yeah, and and those of you guys watching, that's one of the main things we do in my class is basically the students we trade up. In other words, you kind of work your residential into commercial, industrial, office, and then the only reason you're going to sell one of those assets is to buy into something even bigger and better than what you got. And in fact, I was kind of just historically looking at some of the things where I've sold a commercial building or an industrial building or an office building. When I've sold them, it has always been, almost invariably, whatever I have sold in that class of property, I've made over $1 million on that. Oh, God. Oh, they can't hear. Oh, damn it. They can't hear you, unfortunately, Russ. I guess they're not. I got this thing screwed up here. Don't know if I'm going to fix that, guys. Yeah, let's see. How's that? Yeah, it's not just you. I think it's the system here. Yeah, it's probably a little bit. Hey, Logan, is that any better? Can you hear Russ now a little better? You know what? Let me take a look at something. I can't say that I know that much about it. I see people talking a lot about a lot about it here right now. I don't know that it's going to impact me. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Well, I certainly agree with that. Yeah. Let me see here. What is DSR? What is that an acronym for? Do you know? Yeah, I mean, I understand it to be basically loans that are primarily for investors. And Well, here's what I can tell you, and I know some of you guys can't hear everything Russ is saying. We're talking about the DSCR loans. So here's the thing, and I'll say this about banks too, and again, this is just going from decades of dealing with banks. You know, sometimes the best thing in the world can happen to somebody is a bank telling you no, okay? And you got to remember, banks have like some of the best demographics. I mean, there is. I mean, that's what they are. That's their product is money. Their product is money, protecting it, selling it. Not that they don't make colossal mistakes sometimes, but again, sometimes it's government intervention that just absolutely f's up banks completely. Okay, they've had guidelines for forcing people for making banks give loans that are terrible loans. And then when they go belly up, you can go back and you can kind of trace it back to it was and Barney Frank, I think it was Dodd-Frank that kind of effed things up big time at one time. But again, the point of this call or the tonight, what I was talking about, Russ, or what I tried to stay on point with, which I kind of drifted, and I realize, is that you can't rely on historical data. A lot of people like to look at the data. Well, this is exactly like it was in 1987. Well, no, it's not. In 1987, again, the Democrats were conservatives compared to what they are today. We weren't so many trillions of dollars in debt. We didn't have 16.8 million illegals from 300 different countries coming into our country. We didn't have what are we up to now? Golly, I think we have roughly 2,000 fentanyl deaths. I don't know if it's a week now, but think about that. We have this. I mean, think about that. We have like two. It's like whether it's. I'm not gonna. I don't want to be wrong. Somebody look it up for me. How many fentanyl deaths a day in the country? Right, fentanyl deaths. USA. Well, right, but right now, so check this out. Roughly right now for 2024, it's getting back to where it was. Let's do it 2024, right? Let's do 2024. And I'll tell you why this is a big deal. We're killing what will be what would presumably be the new leaders of our country at some point, our working force. Let's see, fentanyl death. Yeah, that's the other thing. You can't really believe anything you read on the news. Anyways, looks like it's about 70. Looks like it's about 5,000 a month, right? So you have the equivalent of fentanyl deaths per month is roughly what we lost twice what we lost in Pearl Harbor, or twice what we lost at the trade, the trade center attacks, and you know what I mean. But we're shocked, and over 2,000 people losing their lives, in one terrorist event. Yet we're losing twice that every fucking month. It's unbelievable, and you've got one party particularly, and actually I'm going to hold both parties accountable because they're both standing by while this has happened, all for the last 4 years. All the drugs coming over the border, and all the illegal aliens, all the people that we have coming over that we're taking care of. We got all these people, all these 325,000 lost kids, and I'm not even making it political. It's just what it is. It's what's reported on the news. But so those kinds of things, that would probably not have slid by or been acceptable 40 years ago, seem to be perfectly acceptable today. Nobody seems to care. Maybe it's going to change with. At the core, I think it's that politicians are easily bought. They're self-dealing, self-serving, and they're not very bright. If you look across the country, really everywhere, the politicians, even many that are elected, even senators, congressmen. Look, you got Swalwell sleeping with a Chinese spy. You got all kinds of stuff like that going on, and nobody cares. You got insider trading. Nancy Pelosi, in number one inside trader. She's made $400 million or something like that. In other words, you can cash in and get super rich as a politician, not from the pay, but from the perks. And so you've got that, just greed and self-serving, and then a lot of people don't realize a congressman and senator. I mean, some of these guys have like $100,000 a month, I think roughly, that to kind of spend, how they want. I mean, it could be entertainment. It could be, they're allowed to have like up to an 8,000 square foot house in their city, and then they got to have of course, then they can have an office. I mean, they got a condo in Washington, and they can employ up to 8 people. And half of them can be hookers. It doesn't matter. It's just so corrupt, and that it's just very difficult to contend with. But yeah, greed. I would just say greed. People get bought, and they're ignorant. A lot of people are very ignorant, but it just I mean, I don't know what else you could attribute to except greed, to be quite honest. And maybe somebody else calling has other ideas, or that's watching wants to comment in. But yeah. Well, this is the best. This is the best place to be. There's no question. But it's eroding, and it's going to hell in a lot of ways. I mean, the debt is unbelievable, and I was talking about it earlier. You've got the current administration that'll be gone, thank God. Whatever they've opened the borders. They've got a huge influx of people coming in here. They've created an app so they can get around the law, skirt the law, and manipulate things. I mean, and it's all really, it's on this side. And then, like I said, we have 92% of the people that don't even have to show up for work, and they're getting a paycheck since the pandemic. And now they're protecting them. They're signing long-term contracts before they go out. They're only going to be in here for another month, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to do a preemptive pardons. Here's a pardon if you do something wrong. Think about that. Being pardoned. Imagine being pardoned preemptively. That means you could do whatever you want. You got a preemptive pardon. In other words, you got it. It's coming. I mean, you can go kill somebody. You know what I mean? You can go rob somebody. I mean, it's not. And it does. I don't think it's going to hold up either way. But well, yeah. Not only that, but I mean. Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be the third time he's won, to be honest. And yeah, lawfare. Oh my gosh, yeah, the lawfare has been horrible. So Logan wrote, and listen to this, Russ. Have ever dealt with DSCR loans in a rural market? Have you ever? I am quote unquote in a rural area, but I am in the area of a major U.S. metro area. Only asking because I know lenders are limited and they want 70%. Logan, I'm not sure if loan to value. Okay, so they want, well, yeah, I mean, listen, if you have excellent credit, you can get 75% loan to value, maybe even 80%. I've got lines of credit like that. And but yeah, rural areas are not a problem. They're not a problem. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So I'm not sure that everybody can hear Russ, but what Russ was talking about is and he's out in Portland, Oregon, and he was saying that he had a client that or an associate that they wouldn't give him 80%, or I mean, if they give him an 80% loan to value, then they discouraged him out of it with, higher interest rate, maybe greater points. But they said do 70 and we'll give it to you and it'll be at a lower rate. And you can tell me, that's pretty much what you're telling me, right? Yeah, I know, Leo. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm kind of repeating. I got to kind of half repeat what my caller says only because the volume's so piss poor. I apologize for that. If I had my son here to work this thing, it'd be different, but it ain't gonna fix tonight. So, but that's basically how it is. The lower the loan to value, the better the interest rate you're going to get. And the reason for that is because the bank sleeps better, right? In other words, I mean, it's kind of like you're borrowing money against your money, which is insane, which some banks even offer that. I can't even believe anybody would ever consider it. But the bottom line is the more secure the bank is, the easier it is for them to lower the rate because the risk becomes lower, right? If you're loaning 50 cents on the dollar, that your risk is minimal compared to loaning 80 cents on the dollar of value. Yeah, sorry, Leo. Yeah, yeah, I hear you fine. Yeah, so Russ just asked, what can you do? Russ just asked, what can you do to stop the decline? Like I say, we've got, whatever. Locally, what can you do, right? I think that, I mean, we're talking about we've got this Doge, right? We really need one that's the Department of City or Department of State efficiency, and so more people care on more, a little more, a little more rural, a little more ground base, um, you know. But unfortunately, whether it's a senator or a congressman or a council person or a mayor, it's the same game. They like ignorant, they like corruptible people. You want people that are broke. You want people that don't have money, because people that don't have money in general that run for, you know, that run for office at any level, okay, the less they have, the more easily corrupted they are. In other words, they're easier to corrupt because they don't have any money. And greed is what gets it. It's always greed. It's always greed. It's always money. Even you think about back when Hillary Clinton was traveling around. Was she Secretary of State? So she's running around I think it was Secretary of State, right? Somebody correct me. I think it was Secretary of State. So you got Hillary running around, and she's in a position of incredible power to give tons of money away to countries everywhere. Well, she's got two cards. She's got her Secretary of State card, and then she's got another card, her charity. This is my personal charity. And so what are you going to do? Are you going to, you know what I mean? You're going to donate. You're going to donate to that charity. And I believe she had $2 billion in her account. And that's why you saw Hillary flying around in a very big personal jet. And, and it's like, it's like, it's just, and so, whatever, you donate a few $1 million to AIDS, victims of AIDS, and that's just kind of like sugarcoating this giant corrupt turd, where money. In fact, if you remember, her as soon as she lost to Trump, just like that, the charity stopped getting donations, right? Because they try to sell it as, oh, the donations are legitimate and this and that. Well, the donations stopped as soon as she wasn't in power, because she didn't have the power to squander. And that's where all the politicians, their power is in squandering money, handing it out. Even at a local city level, you'll see, oh, let's make everything green. It sounds good, right? We want to get economical 1.6 gallon flush toilets. I remember this 30 years ago. Oh, hey, we'll put in 1.6 gallon flush toilets in your apartments for free, or or nearly free. New air conditioners, no problem. And it's not to help me. It's not to help me. It's an excuse. It's an excuse to put money in the plumber's pocket, to put money in the supply house pocket. It's not about you. It sounds good. Oh, we're doing this to conserve water. Really? As an investor myself, wouldn't it make sense that I want to conserve water and cut my water bill by putting in a 1.6 gallon toilet for $90? Of course, but yeah, go ahead. Got, Yeah, so Russ is saying, Russ, I have to have translate as you talk because people aren't hearing you. But yeah, Russ is talking about there in Portland, they've got like a $2 billion water filtration system, something that they could do for, probably 1/1000th of what it's costing. But again, the money's in squandering. That's why it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Doge. And they're already exposing so much waste, and it's just going to, it'll be on steroids come January. It really will be awesome. So listen to this, Russ, as well. Logan wrote, we're talking about speaking fees. Yeah, the speaking fees to people that are in power or still connected to power. It goes through the roof. That's true. Oscar wrote, hey, Tom, do you always use buyer's agents when getting deals, or do you work directly with the listing agent? I always work with the listing agent, Oscar. Almost always. The only time I don't is if a seller's agent, or I'm sorry, if one of my agents comes to me and says, hey, Tom, I found something. And then, of course, I use them. Even though they may not be the broker on it, but they found the deal, we get the thing going. But in general, I like to be on top of my game enough that as soon as something comes available, I find out about it. But the problem is we call them in-house listings. In other words, a Century 21 or whatever, any real estate office, they get a new listing. Well, they haven't put it on the MLS yet. So it's just the insiders inside that office. And not even all of them know. It's just the buddies of the guy that got it listed know. And so that's how I get a lot of my deals too, is sticking close to, really talking to everybody, number one. But I always try to buy from the listing agent, just see, Oscar, to answer your question. But yeah, and I apologize, folks. Russ here's a great, really good investor, and he's also one of my students, and he's always got a good mind and a good perspective. But I got to kind of half repeat what Russ says when he talks. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how things shake out, and I'm looking forward to 2025. And like I said, I take responsibility for the deal I just lost. I should have had it. I could have had it, or I think I could have. Ola just no. They got it for less than I offered. That's the killer. Kinda, yeah. They got a $250,000 allowance for a chiller. I'll explain later, and I'll explain better when I have better communication on here with Russ too. But Ola wrote, what would you do if this was your situation? Income $1 million, credit score 767, living in an apartment to start building a portfolio. Well, $1 million cash, believe me. Ola, number one thing is you need to get some skills. Okay, if you don't know shit about real estate, you don't know what you're doing. Don't trust anybody, number one, because this is how people squander money. I don't know how you came into $1 million. I have people that have actually earned $1 million and made $1 million in business, and then they want to get involved in real estate, and they take my class. So yeah, Oscar, you got to get a skill set. Oscar, what I would tell you is, and I'm going to plug the book. Get my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate, because I have a lot of guys like you, just so you know, in my class. guys that have more money than knowledge. Okay, they know what they're doing, how to make money in business, or some just inherited. Some people join my class because they realize I talk about how much inherited money is squandered. Squandered. Russ made $1 million off of squandered inheritance. I've made millions of dollars on squandered inheritance. And so, again, easy. If you don't earn it, it's, they say a fool and his money are soon parted. So a lot of people come into money that have never had money before, and they think, oh, well, I want to play the game, and then they get into stock market, or they listen to somebody that doesn't know what the hell they're doing, that sounds like they do, and they lose it all. So yeah, just all the fake gurus should, I know. I was just watching Ryan Pineda, who I actually, and he's talking to another fake guru, Chris Crone, and again, and that's what you guys got to understand. Fake gurus stick together, just like thieves, right? Thick as thieves, and the reason that is because they don't have credible history. They just don't have a history that's worthwhile. I really don't think any of the gurus that are the most popular people you see, I don't think any of them can show that they've ever made $500,000 on a deal. I don't think any of them can show that they've ever made $1 million before they started expressing and teaching people how to make money in real estate. So yeah, Oscar, go to my website, Flip Anything USA, and sign up. You can sign up for the webinar this Thursday. It'll be the last one I do for this December, Wednesday, 7 p.m. I guess I should put that up there. So that's 7 p.m. That's in, whatever, day after tomorrow. Get in there. I'll talk to you face to face. And but also fill out the mentorship survey. You can get to that on the site at Flip Anything USA. And anyhow, normally I shamelessly plug this all the time, but all these people you see behind me have made hundreds of thousands, some of them several $1 millions, and I've only been doing this 3.5 years. It's a smart group because I only let smart people in, and it doesn't mean you could be smart and not have done anything in real estate and still make $1 million in a couple of years. I've already had it happen with some of my students. So, anyways, just want to push that out and make sure you understand that. But yeah, and what's neat is we got people all over the country, like Russ I'm talking to right now. He's in Portland, and he's a great asset to the class and to himself, of course. And that's kind of the criteria to get in the class. You got to be an asset to yourself, and you got to be an asset to the class. And it's been proven to be pretty powerful. It's really been a good recipe for making a good brain trust here. I don't know, what else is on your mind? What else are you thinking about? Right. Right. So Russ, I look at Russ. Oh, what's softening up? On what kind of property? Russ just said he's seeing people offering the first month rent-free apartments. Is that what you're talking about primarily? Oh, office space too. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and so that's the thing is these are things to watch for, because it's a buyer's market right now, other than sellers have their hands tied in a big way because they're upside down or they can't sell it, or the reason they can't sell it is because the interest rate, even if they have an interest rate and they don't have a note coming due, they can't sell it because the guy that is going to buy it from them has to borrow the money at twice what they paid for when they bought it. And so they're stuck. Everything's, it's a unique time. And that's why I say historically, you can't really look at it. Oscar also wrote that he's in an apartment and he knows about wholesaling. Yeah, or Ola, sorry. Yeah, Ola, for wholesaling, look, wholesaling is for bottom feeders. I mean, and I'm not, listen, it's fine to start that way. I wholesaled some deals in the beginning. I wholesaled deals that I couldn't afford to buy. I couldn't find a partner for. I wholesaled them. It's a hedge against if you can't buy it yourself, right? And but yeah, get in the class or get in the webinar, and we'll talk more about that. Oscar wrote this. Looking to buy my first home, but just moved to my area. I'm trying to learn the market here. Good for you. I don't want to be a buyer's agent. I don't want to use a buyer's agent if I don't need to. Trying to keep my money. I'll read your, yeah, do that, Oscar. Read the book. And again, get in the webinar. I'll remember you. Just get in the webinar, 7 p.m. Central. That's all the day after tomorrow. And I'll talk to you about it because it's a no-brainer for you. You have to get. You're already a buyer. You already have decided you're going to buy something, okay? And presumably you have the money to buy something. And so this is why it's so important to you. Listen, most people die in the house that they buy, right? Most people live and die in their first home. Just kind of how it goes. So. And you can be that guy if that's what you want to be, but most people buy and they have no equity because they don't care what they paid. They just care if they can afford the monthly payment. Don't be that guy. You want to be the guy that when you buy a property that day one that you maybe pick up, depending on your price range, you pick up $70,000 to a couple $100,000 in equity the day you purchase. You should have that kind of equity because if you follow those fundamentals that I teach in the class, everybody in my class, when they buy something, they can sell it for more. That's the key. You have to be able to sell it for more. And if you can sell it for more, you turn it, and then pretty soon you got enough that, you can go buy a big building or whatever you want to hold and live on that, quit your job, and then dedicate yourself to just looking for deals. Yeah. Oh, on here, Ola, I believe. Ola, is that you that has $1 million? Yeah. So, remember, hey, Russ, you got to remember, I got to translate. And I'm like, I have to repeat what you say, otherwise nobody's going to hear it. So, like Russ said, he'd be terrified. I wouldn't be terrified, but Russ has said he'd be terrified to have $1 million. And what else did you finish that up? Okay. Yeah, and so he's saying, and I'm sorry, he doesn't have $1 million. It turns out it's 100K. It's okay. So it's okay, although that's fine. But Russ's point is Russ is like me in as much as he likes his money to work for him all the time. Your money is really not working for you sitting in the bank. Now, I'll say this. It's better that your money sit in the bank while you don't know what you're doing than for you to throw it out there and give it to somebody else or invest with somebody. I mean, you want to be able to take control, hold the reins, and be in charge, but you want to make a great investment. So while I totally get what Russ is saying, I keep all my cash invested. I invest. I always have lines of credit. I have tons of equity. I have very little debt, right? That's my key. I have very little debt. And so I can, I don't have to leverage. And leverage is what can make or break you. You can make a lot of money leveraging. I've done it. And I've had some thin times where I've been stressed when the economy got tight. And I was, bought a lot. And it's not fun. It's not good. But, I've never filed bankruptcy. I've never had a problem like that. I've always paid my bills. And like you say, you had said you got a good credit score too. That's good for you. You'll get to a level where your credit score doesn't even matter. The bank they don't care what your credit score is. Go ahead, Russ. I have, but I'm not going to talk about it here. I'm not going to talk about it right now. The problem with that is, I think when they have a situation, and I just look, everybody knows, anyways, pretty much here. If you're 30 years old and you don't have any money saved, you got bigger problems than I can help you with. you need to have a discipline. If you don't have a discipline to save money, you're in trouble. I mean, you could be a kid, 20, 25 years old and save $20,000. That's awesome. I think that's commendable, and I would talk to you and I would consider you for the class. Now, if you're 20 and you don't have two nickels to rub together, I'm going to wonder why. Okay, if you're 30 years old and you don't have hardly two nickels to rub together, my advice to you is get your shit together, get some skills, make yourself more valuable at whatever the hell you do, and start saving. Because there's almost, I mean, obviously there's some excuses that people can have for not having anything, getting robbed, not having insurance, and having everything burn up. I get it, but those are the exceptions to the rule. If you've generally, people say, oh, I got a divorce. Well, so you and, a million people this month have gotten a divorce, and guess what? They're not broke. Sometimes they're both rich. They go two different directions and they're both rich, okay? I remember a couple, and this is funny, this is when I first came to Austin, and she's a gorgeous woman, and she's pretty. And her and her husband are a husband and wife team, and they sold a $16 million building in downtown Austin. It was like a 30-story building. It was pretty crazy. Beautiful building, too. And, this is a very, very valuable building. And it was selling for peanuts. It was $16 million. And they got 6% of that. So they got just under $1 million commission. And they couldn't wait. I mean, they were at the closing table. Each got their check, half each of that roughly $1 million. And boom, they were separated. They were divorced. I mean, they were divorcing. That was, that was a happy ending to their situation. But again, sad, but at the same time, things could be worse. Better than blaming your wife. And, there's the old joke, two guys are talking, and one guy's talking about, what'd you do with your life? How do you made your money? And the guy says, well, my wife made me a millionaire. And he says, really? What'd you do before that? Multimillionaire. Okay, that's the joke. Anyways. Okay, the bank is risk adverse and wants to cash in the bank. Yeah. That's always Logan makes a good point. Those of you that are watching that don't know this, a banker's job is to loan money out as risk-free as possible. That's what a good, a lender is, right? Banks compete for loan officers, right? They want, hey, commercial loan guy, they steal them away from each other all the time. And the reason they do that is they know they get a new loan officer. He usually brings clientele with him. I have a loan officer that, I borrowed $3 million, I think, from her from Wachovia, and then I bought probably $5 or $10 million from her over the following 5 years. Between 3 or 4 different banks. She finally hit a bank that didn't give her any respect, which means I didn't get any respect. And so I had to leave her and go to a new banker. And again, and she, but that's kind of how it goes. The banks, they want to they want as much cash as possible. That's what they want. They want cash. And then when they do loan money, it's just like everything else. You want to sell it for as much as you can. If you have a product, you want to sell it for as much as you possibly can and make as much as you can. Well, they're the same way with money. They want to loan that money out, and they got a fine line between risk and reward, right? And they know the balance. Most of them do. And the balance is, again, low loan to value, right? Keep that loan to value low, and get as much interest as you can without losing the client. In other words, you'll do what you got to do to keep them, but you're still going to try to get as much as you can. And, so that's the game, though. That's the game. Keep your risk low and loan as much as you can out risk-free. And risk-free means, low debt, a low debt ratio to assets, to income. What else? Well, man, I am sorry, everybody, that the volume is so low, but I think I've done okay. You've been able to pretty much understand the conversation that I'm also having with Russ here at the same time. And I'll make sure my son gets on this and fixes it tomorrow. I actually plan on doing a lot more nighttime stuff, by the way. I actually been more productive getting certain things done at night because I have been Just too many kind of irons in the fire during the day. But anyways, and I know you've kind of got the same thing going. Where are you at on your projects right now, Russ? Russ has got quite a commercial project going, building a lot of improvements, and he's got it, and it's sitting there empty right now, right? Did you ever get a tenant over there yet? Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I can tell you, yeah, and I'm saying this to everybody, and or you already know how I am, Russ, but listen, you want to be, I mean, you need to treat any vacancy, just pretend if it's, like I'm 100% occupied, 100% occupied, okay, but I have one tenant that is struggling. They're only paying about half their rent, and I've been bearing with them. Just it's not a great time to rent, anyways. December, November, forget it. It's just very, very difficult. So I'm letting him try to get his shit together so he can make it, and we'll be having a heart-to-heart here sometime in January. And if he can't figure it out, and meaning come up with some money, then he's got to go. He's got to go, and then I'll have somebody take his place. But you can't get too complacent, and it's easy to do when you have a lot of money. You can even be a little bit depressed. You can be tired. Just there's all these things that can, life happens, right? And you're looking, and you realize, shit, I'm losing $40,000 a month because I'm not taking care of my business. And even though you can afford it, but that's no reason. I mean, then what can happen though is all of a sudden bad times come, and now you're going to have not just a hard time filling that 40 grand deficit you have, but you might start to have some of your parts of your other portfolio start to erode as well. So just treat everything like it's an emergency when it comes to your rental portfolio. Okay, so Russ is asking me if in these kind of times or those kinds of times, would I give incentives like a free month's rent, or you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, sure. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but it's all based on the client. Remember, we've talked about this before. This is one of the things I teach in my classes. You really, sometimes when you have a building, you're so anxious, and especially the thinner you are, right? The less money you have, the more anxious you are to fill the vacancy. So the problem with that is about 9 out of 10 businesses go under. So I'm talking about commercial, industrial, office businesses, right? So sometimes you're tempted because you're tight on money to take the first guy that applies, the first guy that says he'll take the space. You say, okay, let's do it, because you need the money, right? But you got to have the discipline to go, well, how long you been in business? What's your history? What's your background? If they're a brand new business, forget it. Just forget it. Unless they can make a compelling reason for you to say, oh, wow, that's a fantastic idea. Because I've seen a lot of businesses fail over the many, many years that I've been doing this. And there's nothing better than taking in a company that's just moving from across town, okay? You want somebody that isn't new to business. They're new to your property. They want your location. They want to move in, but you want them to be established. And I'm answering Russ's question too, by the way. So, which is basically, that shouldn't even matter. In all honesty, when it comes to commercial, industrial, and office, given a free month's rent away, I would say is not the best idea. I mean, it's just. Yeah, yeah. So, like, look, if it's an apartment and somebody wants to rent an apartment and they have good credit and they want to keep their credit good, sure, have an incentive because there's another apartment just like yours across the street, down the block, whatever. It makes sense. Hey, we'll give you 30 days free, or move in today and your 12th month is free, or your 6th month is free. With the new businesses that come in. What we like to deliver, whether it be a commercial building, let's say a commercial strip center, you're delivering a white box, right? They walk in, the walls are all white, right? Ceiling's white because it's a drop ceiling. And they'll say, hey, I want to put in this. And then sometimes they try to get you to go for their tenant improvements. And you already know how I feel about that, Russ. I don't do it. What I'll say is, sure, I'll give you $10,000 in tenant improvements. Meaning, and what I'll do is you put those tenant improvements in and I'll take it off your rent. So in other words, let's just say I'm going to give them $20,000, right? Or I'll make it simple. Just say $24,000. Okay, well, I'm not going to give them 24 grand. But I might take $24,000 off their rent over the next 2 years. So I'll say, hey, listen, fine, move in, and instead of charging you $10,000 a month, I'm going to charge you $9,000 a month, taking $1,000 off for the next 2 years. So that's how they get their $24,000 out of me, is by staying around for 2 years. That way, if they go belly up in 6 months or whatever, I'm only out $6,000 for giving them a deal. And I might even make that up by the improvements that they put in the property. But 9 times out of 10, the improvements that a tenant puts in a building are going to be worthless to the new tenant that replaces them. That's my history with retail anyways, right? It's just how it is. Kevin wrote, let's see, Oscar wrote, Tom, would you be taking mentees in the springtime? Yeah, Oscar. Yeah, listen, anybody that's bright, I'll take a new mentee almost any time. But they got to be bright, You just got to have good sense. And I pretty much determine that with one conversation, one phone call, okay? So what you do, Oscar, and I'll deviate here from just a second. You just go right here to apply for mentorship. Click on apply for mentorship. And Oscar, do this tonight, would you? And I'll feel like I actually accomplished something today. And just fill this little form out. Very, very tiny, very, very little bit of information. And then we'll have a phone call tomorrow, right? I'll text you and I'll say, hey, call me if you want to talk. And it's that simple. But yeah, for sure, if you got $100,000, Oscar, and how old are you, Oscar? I didn't get your age, by the way. Kevin also wrote, in the meantime, Kevin wrote, you can do that if there is going to be a building time or whatever before the store can open. Oh, I see. I think Kevin's talking about the tenant improvements. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, sometimes the conversations start going between people watching, so I'm not sure. Anyways, I don't know. So Oscar's 29. Yeah, 29. Listen, you got 29 and $100,000. You only need to spend a fraction of that to get smart, right? To get in my class, just a fraction of that. The thing is the most foolish thing you can do is go out there and invest your $100,000 or 50,000 of your $100,000 and not know what you're doing. So it's worth it to spend, a few $1,000 to know what to do with the rest of the money. It's super important. And, people think, oh, well, I can learn all that shit for free on YouTube. There is so much bullshit on YouTube. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to end up taking advice from it. Look at, and I hate to pick on Ryan Pineda, but I've watched Ryan Pineda. I don't know how many times he said, I was wrong. He's trying to get people to invest with him on this ridiculous apartment complex. And I told him, I went in the comments, it's a mistake, don't do it. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And I remember one of his guys wrote me and said, hey, Mr. Pineda doesn't really care what you think. And then a year later, 2 years later, he's like got this big confession about how he blew it buying what I told him not to buy in the comments. And it's because he didn't know what he's doing. But he was high on Grant Cardone, wanted to follow the Grant Cardone model, create a fund, and then all of a sudden he had to throw $1 million in this thing, or roughly that's it. You can go watch the video on him. And then he talks about 250 flips, and then having more properties than he could afford to flip at once, and the holding costs, he didn't factor that in. It's just math. But nobody wants to follow a noob over the cliff. And that's pretty much what I perceived, exactly what was going on with him. And, again, and that's what happens, when you see people that are young, you just got to understand You can't pull experience out of your ass. I mean, it comes from doing. It comes from experience, from being there, doing it. And it takes a long time to learn a bunch of lessons. It takes a long time. You can read about them and you can hear about them, and believe me, it's really good to hear about those things. But it's really great to get that information as you're experiencing it to pull yourself out of the problem. And actually, and Russ is actually a great example because he's a go-getter and a doer, and he's run into issues in a very short time that I've run into over the last 30, 40 years, and I've been able to help him because of that. Yeah, Russ is saying thanks, if those of you that can't hear it. But it's cool, isn't it, Russ? How cool is this? Yeah, yeah. But how cool is it? You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get high. Yeah, I get high on helping, anyways. But and he's had some tough stuff, and I have other people in the class that had even tougher stuff that I've helped them out of, and it's just very rewarding for me. And of course, having somebody that appreciates it is listen, gratitude is nothing evaporates quicker than gratitude in general. But you've been very gracious in being thankful and appreciating. I appreciate that too. So. Yeah, yeah, no, right, and yeah, no, I hear you 100%. I really do. Somebody wrote here, any syndications from what I have seen, I would run the other way. Yeah, Logan, I would agree with most of what you're saying. I mean, listen, you can't, like I say, it's really simple. If you have common sense, a lot of this is very easy to figure out. When somebody claims to have the greatest thing on earth that you should be investing in, you say, okay, well, what's your history, right? Nobody ever asks, though. Most people don't ask, what's your history, right? Grant Cardone tells everybody, sell your house at the worst possible time to sell your house. He's telling people to sell their house. And he's neglecting to mention that he made a shitload of money on his house that he bought and helped put him in motion to buy his first apartment complex, the way I understand it. And so, you know what I mean? You just gotta read between the lines. That what? Yeah, well, yeah. That's the story. I mean, Grant Cardone is a gifted speaker and motivator, but I don't think he knows shit about real estate. What he knows about real estate, an 8-year-old could figure out, which is get other people's money and buy property with their money. Okay, it's pretty easy. There's no downside. You know what I mean? So, and if you leverages, I mean, for him, it's not even leverage. You're just using other people's money and getting a piece of the action. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. If things dry up, and they have dried up on him, you stop paying out dividends until things get healthier. I think he had to do that during the pandemic. And look at Brandon Turner, Mr. Beardy Weird. I call him Beardy Weirdly because he's weirdly successful in real estate. And I jokingly say that because I don't think he's got any real estate chops. I know he says, I went from 3 million to 11,000 doors. He's talking about Open Door Capital, which, his celebrity from being on Bigger Pockets he's a likable guy. A lot of people said, I like this guy. I think we'll invest in Open Door. Well, Open Door to me is a colossal failure. Take a look. I mean, they've been 40% shy, according to some things that I've read, 40% shy of their projections, 40% off. I mean, that's horrible. So, again, but, a fool and his money are soon parted. Say again, Russ? Yeah, Zillow was buying homes for a while. Yeah. Right. So Russ is saying he had a client that had a house that Russ figured is worth $550,000, and Zillow paid him $750, and that's why Zillow. One of the reasons Zillow doesn't buy houses anymore, because again, and they've got a lot of great data, but I don't know. That's a colossal screw up for sure. Yeah, and they don't do it anymore. But it's such a conflict of interest, to be honest. Because think about it, Zillow. I could never be in their position. Imagine you're in a position where you're providing data for people to zestimate, right? Not estimate, but zestimate. And so you're getting, so you're in a position where you're saying, hey, we'll give an estimate to you of what your property's worth. And by the way, we'll buy that property too. You know what I mean? So how they screwed that up, I don't know. But, the real concern would be providing estimates that are lower than the values are worth so that you can buy property under market. And somehow, you just wouldn't want to be in that position because I'm not saying they're a fiduciary, but they're kind of presenting themselves as, as a source to evaluate what property's worth. And let me just tell you something. I love Zillow. I'm not saying it's the wherewithal, but it is a great, it is a great point of reference for value. I love it. Their rental program, they have a thing where you can have them fill out, tenants fill out the application. People instantly know you have properties available. You put it on, Zillow rental. And it's a fantastic setup. I highly recommend Zillow for managing your property and getting your tenants for houses, okay, just for houses. And I'm not even crazy about residential property. I tend to buy 3 or 4 houses in one entity, and then I'll sell those properties together in order to have a big enough chunk to buy a bigger building or something like that. So I do like it. I do like Zillow a lot, just for those of you that are watching. And you use Zillow too, don't you, for the rental application? Yeah, so does Ross. And yeah, I failed to mention it, but Russ just mentioned it, that they also handle the background checks, right? So for $39, they're running the background checks. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, we got a lot of wonderful things out there, and I can tell you right now, like I said, real estate 43 years, nothing's changed. It's the buying and selling real estate at its core. Nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is that you have like everything today. Everything is quicker, more at hand, more convenient to get information. That's it. That's it. And but the most important things about buying real estate, which is buying under market and that sort of thing, yeah, pretty much it's unchanged. It just really hasn't changed. You can, the basics are and the fundamentals are never going to change, and people have been getting. Yeah. Yeah. So what Russ is talking about is this, one of the beauties of real estate is once you understand it, and Oscar Ola, whoever, you're going to understand it when you get in the class. I assume you probably will. Is you're going to understand it's like riding a bike. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you know how to ride a bike, right? where when you're first beginning, you might, you might fall over and get hurt, that sort of thing. But once you've got the fundamentals down, you kind of know what to do. As long as you stay within those parameters of just good fiscal responsibility and buying under market and just understanding the fundamentals of success in real estate, and you'll learn that. Then you'll always be safe, because that's, and really, you don't have to know everything going in. It does help to know a lot, and the more you know, the better you'll be. But the basic fundamentals will protect you from making a devastating mistake. And number one thing I teach in the class is easy to do, hard to undo. Easy to do, hard to undo. Just, consider like marrying the wrong woman. Hard to undo. You know what I mean? You're getting a gal pregnant that, you know what I mean? It's just all these things, or buying a property and paying too much for it. And now you're upside down on the mortgage. Hard to undo, hard to undo. Walk away from it, destroy your credit. Hard to undo, hard to fix. So anyways, and Logan wrote, a great analogy for real estate syndications is the government with taxation and the poor use of those tax dollars. Yeah, that's actually not a bad analogy, right? Not their money. Yeah, and that's, yeah, believe me, I've had people try to buy properties from me for real estate investment trusts, and I'm thinking, are you kidding? They don't even care what they're paying for it, some of them. They just got so much money they need to burn. And so, yeah, you got to look at the incentives. You got to look at the mechanics of what's going on. Obviously, agent, your agent represents you, but guess what? He makes money if you buy. He doesn't make money if you don't buy. So he's already a little bit skewed to, hey, yeah, let's get something. Oh, that's a good deal. You know what I mean? And he might be compromising, and he may not be that smart anyways. And so, I'm not even saying it's not always sinister. Some people are like, oh, yeah, get it. That sounds like a great deal. Well, that sounds like a great deal. You know what I mean? They don't know. So it can be tough. So anyways, hey, Russ, I appreciate it. I think we'll wrap it up, man. And I apologize, folks, that I've had to kind of had such low volume here tonight on physical volume of our talking. But I'll try not to let it happen again. But always fun to hang out with all my friends and folks around the USA and elsewhere. So thanks for watching, everybody. And anything you want to say, Russ, before we wrap it up? Yeah, I like that. So they can't hear you, so I got to repeat it. But what Russ said, he said, at the end of the year, set a goal for yourself. He's saying maybe even take my class, make that how you start the new year. I think that's a great idea too, by the way. Apply, doesn't mean you're going to get in, but you should. If you, Ola, for sure, man, make 2025 the year that you buy a property, $100,000 under market, flip it, make another $100,000 by the end of the year, and double your money. You can double your money easily. Believe me, you can double your money. Watch some of the testimonials, by the way. Watch Shane. Shane's a fairly new student, made $350,000 in 2 years. He made I think almost $200,000 he made within the first year. So, anyways, it's real. It's happening. It's totally doable. And you guys watching, come hang out again. Hit that subscribe button. Remind everybody to do that now. And we'll see you guys, maybe tomorrow. And be sure to get in the webinar, of course, this Thursday, 2 days from now. Thanks, guys. Bye. You want to learn how to make millions of dollars in real estate? I've made tens of millions over my lifetime, and I'm showing people how to do it. Get in my free webinar. I have it every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. Go to the link below, flipanythingusa.com/webinar. Sign up for it. You can talk to me face-to-face if you want. Don't waste any time. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. You don't want to miss my channel. I've been doing it for years.
And listen, time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.